Well, well, well. Hello, crafters. Big D here on this quiet Tuesday. Both Little D and Lady D are suffering from head trauma. Headaches, migraines, something like that. Their brains aren't right. You know how it is. So today I'm here all alone and by myself, talking about all things Warhammer here on Taco Tuesday. So, what's on the bench? This bad boy. Just got finished printing him, got him glued together, and I'm going through with some Tamiya line definer and defining all the panel lines so that I can go in and just clean up with some Uthian Gray and then put the basing down and get some purple and green on here. I like that my scheme is very simple. So this bad boy, my Piper makes, what do they call it? It's a narwhal replacement for a storm surge. I had to rotate it on the base, build up the base a little bit. I actually cut a slot of base in half to get underneath that thing to give it a little bit more support, but it is, yeah. So, yeah, it's a Piper Makes. It is beautiful. And it's most of the work is done. I just got to do the touch-ups in the basing. It should be good to go. And it's even got magnets so I can pull the missiles off as I use them. Because you can only fire 2 a round, and you only get 4 all game. So I actually have them magnetized so they can sit down and I can take them off when they're there. So let's take a quick peek here. My buddy Mythos, good to see you there, you beautiful person, you. Commodore coming in from high orbit, good there. Superfly, good to see you as well. And the lovely Flight of the Phoenix. Good to see the 4 of you so far. I also printed out something else. I don't know if anybody knows or cares, and I'm going to put it out there. I don't really care. My family, my grandmother specifically, was born and raised in Kiev. And so I am of Russian heritage. But my grandmother was from Ukraine. And so there's great pride in both for me. And there was a company, I forget who it was, but they were producing a pay-as-you-want printable miniature of Commander Zelensky, who is basically the president of Ukraine. They created a model of him because he's not shying away from the combat. He's a president, and he's like, I have to go in there. So he's fighting. So they created a miniature of him where all the proceeds are going to help the Ukrainian effort. And what's interesting, I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up. But yeah, really clear. That symbol there, although it's broken around on the concrete, that's the national symbol, the national crest of Ukraine. So he's basically standing on Ukraine and being there. So I'm actually super excited by it. I printed 3 out. I have a couple people in my local area that they don't have 3D printers. I told them, if you buy the STL, if you go to the pay what you want and you pay for it, and you can show me, grab a screenshot and show me the receipt, I'll print you one. And so I printed 3 out right away. I've already got a couple guys I got to deliver. And I mentioned it. I was doing this for a couple people on Reddit, and I actually had somebody from Minnesota reach out to me. He's like, "Look, let me show you the screenshot. I will also not only donate to them, but I'll pay for you to ship it to me. But I want to help. But I'd really love one of those miniatures if I can." I'm like, "Sure, just show it to me and we'll get it done." So it came out real clean. It's a really cool figure. I'm gonna paint him up and use him in my Imperial Guard as my supreme commander of my Imperial Guard army when the book comes out. So he's just the right scale. And yeah, Mythos, it is tough. It's tough not because I know anybody there. My family has long left the Ukraine. I have no family left there. And I still follow it. I call it the Ukraine, and it's not the Ukraine, it's just Ukraine. That's a holdover from the days that it was part of the Russian Empire. Oh, Roxy, that's awesome to hear. I saw those. My grandmother was part of the imperial elite. She was an aristocrat. Her grandfather was basically the Archduke of Kiev in the mid 1800s. So that's why she had to leave the country when she did. So I'm sad because they finally had freedom. And I remember my grandmother saying to me before she died, after Ukraine declared its independence from the Republic, well, I should say from the collective and reformed their own republic, she said to me specifically, we were talking about it, and she's like, now Ukraine is free to be what they have always meant to be. She herself recognized the aristocracy was not the best for the people in her older age. She recognized it later in life. So she just wanted Ukraine to be prosperous because it was the land where she was from. She was a Russian, but she was from Ukraine. So it bothers me because, yeah, I mean, it's both sides of my family. It's my Russian heritage and my family's point of origin at war with each other because one of them wants to go back to when they just owned people, and I don't own other countries and part of an empire, and I don't think that, and I don't like that, and I don't like the fact that they're repressing their own people to keep them from protesting it, because again, that's not freedom either, and that's just going back to the way things were under the previous regime. So I'm not an advocate for war. I'm not an advocate for violence. But something's got to give. And that is all we're going to talk about politics tonight. We're done with politics. Not going to talk anymore about it. I just wanted to show off the cool figure and show off the other cool figure. Now that I've got my printer all dialed in and working properly. So off of that. So this past weekend, I had an RTT. For those of you that don't speak the lingo, it's a Rogue Trader tournament, which is basically a smaller tournament. There's RTT, which is a Rogue Trader tournament. There's a GT, which is a Grand Tournament, and then there's a Grand Tournament Major, which is like over a certain number, even a lot of people, or they just simply just call them majors. The majors everybody knows about are the big majors, the Adepticon Championship, the Las Vegas Open Championship, the Nova Open, and the SoCal Open. There's a few others. It's not level I'm competing at. I'm just doing the little 20 guys getting into a store and playing 3 rounds. And I'm playing my really powerful, really grotesque, everybody's afraid of him Tau. And I got my ass handed to me. Holy crap. I got my ass handed to me. First round, I played against Knights. Basically, I want to say 8 or 9 Chaos War Dogs, the Chainsword and Melt-a-Lance thing, armigers, basically, and 4 or 5 Moiraxes, which is the Forge World armiger that comes with a pair of weapons called Lightning Locks that are basically like scatter lightning bolt things. I don't know what the heck they do, but they do a lot of damage. They're not like as bad as, say, a Volkite, but they're very similar in their mechanics. And that was my first round. And I think I was the only army that had enough firepower to try and hang with them for any real length of time. And I couldn't clear them off the middle objective in the 4th round. And that made me lose 1 round's worth of Stranglehold and made him gain 1 round's worth of 3 or more on a 5 objective mission. And because I had to commit extra forces to try and get him the hell off of that objective, I wasn't able to take a group of unit that I was going to run up to a corner and get my last retrieve Nakaman data with. So it's caused that one round, a single armiger with 1 wound that would not fail a saving throw to save my freaking life. Because we were high scoring and everything else the rest of the round. I ended up losing 87 to 98. I think the only thing he didn't max out on was he had it was the number of dudes that he killed of mine. The max he got for that was like 12 points. So he got 15 on one secondary, 50 on another secondary, and 45 on primary. And I ended up getting 42 on a primary and 42 on primary, and then a little like 8 on one of my second. And that 8 on the one secondary killed me because I got 15 on my other secondary and 12 on my other secondary. So instead of 15. So yeah, it was a very close game. It was a high scoring game. No, I mean, it was a tough match. I cannot complain about that first round. That first round was a tough match against a great opponent. He ended up being the guy that won it all. I just had 1 wound I could not take off of him, and I could not shove him off the objective. I had done it 2 rounds in a row. I'd killed what he committed, and the 3rd round in a row, I just could not get that last wound no matter what I threw at it. So, and that ended up turning the tide of the game for me. Which, yeah, sucked bad. But, okay, that happens. That's it. I would rather lose a tight game. I honestly would rather lose a tight game than win an absolute blowout, because a blowout's not really fun for either player either. So we got to the 2nd round, and I played against a Death Guard army. And everyone's like, well, Death Guard's not that good. Yeah, they're not good at objectives. They're not good at certain types of objectives. And there's a lot of things they can't do. But there's a lot of things they can do, especially when you build towards it. And they built towards a massive traffic jam of vehicles. They were demon engines upon demon engines upon demon engines. And I was already off my game by playing 13 vehicles in the first round against 13 really tough vehicles to then face an army list of almost an identical number of engines, except it's all now demon engines. So they've got demonic saves and lots of attacks and lots of strength 8 weapons and regeneration and psychic and so the second round didn't go well at all. Just did not go well. I overextended thinking I'm just going to blow this initial push off the board. I overextended. He took no damage, and suddenly half my army was gone. And I was just like, what just happened? I can't roll a wound roll and I can't roll an armor save. And he's got all these big weapons. Crap. So yeah, it was a pretty nasty beatdown. Again, I learned a lot. I have to play Death Guard very differently if I face them again. The guy that's playing him, it's the same list he's going to be playing and been playing. So I know if I face him again, I know exactly what to do. I hope. Dice still have to give me a little, got to give me a little something there. And in the third round, I got to play a traffic jam again. What is with the vehicles? Nobody plays vehicles. And suddenly in this tournament, I run against 3 lists that are all a crap load of vehicles. But I run up against a traffic jam worth of an orc speedwog led by a mecha boss surrounded by a big blob of mechanobs. I won that game. Barely. Oh, barely. So I went 1-2 on the day. I can't complain. Like I said, I learned a lot. I actually learned a lot in all 3 games because none of them really went the way I wanted. And I find that I learn more from a loss or a really close game than I do from anything else. To be honest, the orc game, I think if he had been painted, I think if he had finished painting and basing his figures, he would have earned the 10 points. I think the score is close enough that he would have won. So, and we had a lot of that. We had a lot of people this weekend. I know of at least 5 games that because they painted their figures but they didn't do the bases, or they had still a couple units that just weren't done yet because it's an RTT. It's a more casual setting, but that 10 point matters. Mythos, you might want to think about knights. You got all those wonderful knights. Knights are doing some really good stuff right now. They really, really are. Knights right now, especially armigers. Oh my, armigers and moraxes and helverins are just an absolute beast to deal with. Considering every single one of them is considered obsec and five figures counts as 5 guys on the board. Oh my god. And because as long as they have 1 wound, there's still 5 guys, you have to pump shots and shots and shots and shots into them. It's not like a regular squad where I can pump a bunch of wounds in and I take off 1 or 2 guys and now I can slip a partial unit in there. No, they're 5 guys, every single one. So, oh my god. Such a pain in the butt. Imperial Guard, though, when they get their book, they're going to be amazing. They really are going to be amazing. Then get them painted, my man. So yeah, I mean, we had like 5 games that were decided by less than 10 points and would have been the other way had somebody been painted. So that says something about the competition in an area. Everybody's kind of really coming up around the same skill level. And so it's now starting to get to the point where armies and play are really more deciding factor in play. We had 3 Custodians players initially. One of them had to drop out. We had 5 Tau players initially, and one of them had to drop out. So we ended up with 4 Tau. I think we ended up with 18 players. I think we had a total of 2 guys that did drop completely. I agree with Roxy, and therefore I'm allowing it. But yeah, I mean, it was good. It was real good. It was enjoyable. It was a good weekend. I'll admit, I'll be the first to admit, I was salty as, oh man, I was salty as hell. That night, I was salty as hell driving home. Cause man, I made so many mistakes replaying the games in my head. Oh, I did that there. Why did I do that? Oh, I did that. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I use that stratagem? Why didn't I do that? Man, like I said, you learn so much more when you lose than when you win a game. Because now you're looking at, I got in this situation where things went bad. How could I have played it differently? And you got to go through in your mind, how could I have played it differently? How could I have played it differently? And yeah, there's a bunch of strats I forgot to use. There's a bunch of ways I could have used my guys and do something different with them, and I didn't. I came up with another list to like alternate list. I'm like, that plays very differently, but it's a lot more violent. But I don't know if I'm going to jump to that list yet. I'm going to try playing what I have, my current list, for another month. I think my list is solid. I mean, I've gone over the numbers. The list I have is solid. Most armies should not be able to hang on to the bulk of their forces after like a round or 2 of me shooting. I just happened to get 2 armies in a row in the first 2 rounds of 4 to 5 invul saves with T7 and T8 bodies, and just no dudes.